Kobe Bryant would absolutely kneel for the anthem. I'm not so sure about a 24-year-old Kobe Bryant. As focused and as driven as he was of being the greatest, the best, I'm not so sure he was as socially conscious then as he is now.
So you mean if he were still playing at 39, he would kneel?
Absolutely. I absolutely believe that.
Yep.
But in his prime, Kobe, when basketball was the end-all, be-all, being the greatest basketball player was the end-all, be-all, I'm not so sure he had time. I don't even know. Maybe he would have known, but I don't think Kobe had a lot of time for anything that wasn't basketball related he didn't feel could help him win titles or become a better basketball player.
Yep.
In today's, what we're seeing is that we see but they're becoming more morally conscious. You know, Skip, I believe in the 70s and 80s and even 90s, because we didn't have this thing called social media. Now everything is being posted. Every interaction most black Americans have with a police officer, somebody's getting it on cell phone. Somebody's having it. And where those guys weren't being affected, the black athletes weren't being affected because that wasn't in their communities. They were living in these upscale communities. This wasn't going on. You see a spot incident here or there on the 6:30 news. Now, 24-hour news cycle. Everything is getting posted. Everything is being seen multiple times. Although this isn't happening in their backyards, they're looking at this like, hold on, wait a minute. I see Walter Scott get shot in his back, running away, no threat to the officer, and he hangs the jury. I see what happened with the Trayvon Martin. I see what happened to Tamir Rice. That's not right. I can no longer bite my tongue.
Yep.
I can no longer let money dictate my conscience. And these guys are starting to speak up. Not only speak up, but they're speaking out. And we've asked a long time for our athletes to become more vocal because they are very influential. That's why these brands tie themselves to these guys, because they influence. They're what they call influencers.
Yep.
And they carry a lot of weight. And so in that, I absolutely believe, Skip, at 39, knowing the Kobe Bryant, he did wore the I Can't Breathe T-shirt with Eric Garner situation. He did comment on the Trayvon Martin, although he caught blowback for it.
He did.
He's become more socially conscious. And a man that sees himself the exact same 10 years, 15 years later as he did 10 or 15 years ago has wasted that much time of his life. Kobe Bryant has matured. Kobe Bryant has grown. LeBron said he wouldn't kneel. LeBron is saying, not only will I speak out, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. So I'm going to give $50+ million, 1,100 of kids in the Akron area that come through my program. They're going to go to college on my dime. You see Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick kneeled to get your attention. Once he got your attention and he told you why he was doing it, he gave $1 million of his own money.
He did.
He gave it to community leaders and groups that was best suited for the cause that he deemed most appropriate. So you should have no problem with Colin Kaepernick. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. If kneeling is not in your heart, if you're not 100% on board with that, that shouldn't be your form of protest. Whatever it is that's going to lead you, that's in your heart, that's in your mind, and you feel passionate about it, that's what you should do. And I'm glad Kobe said that. I absolutely do, Skip. 39 Kobe's taking a knee because we've seen what he's posted on his site, and he's become more outspoken. I'm not so sure the 24-year-old Kobe would have done that, because if you remember, Jim Brown had the comment that if Kobe Bryant was around in '67, he wouldn't have invited him.
He did say that. Yeah. and I communicated with Kobe about that because I thought it was very unfair to Kobe.
Right.
Because that came late in Kobe's career.
Correct.
And to your point, we got to watch Kobe Bryant sort of grow up before our very eyes over those many years. And I'm with you. I applaud Kobe for the one-word answer he gave to the question on the podcast of what would you do now if you were playing. And he just said, kneel. Good. Boom. And I would like to think that he would, because there would be a lot of risk involved if he did kneel, because guess what? Nobody else is kneeling in the NBA. And guess what? Adam Silver declared right out of the box, off all the early NFL kneeling and conflict and unrest and gnashing of teeth. He just said, hey, Adam Silver, we have a rule. Everybody will stand in the National Basketball Association. Wow. Really? So let me put this in context. 3 white coaches in the NBA have been scathing public critics of our president.
Absolutely.
Popovich, Steve Kerr, Stan Van Gundy, scathing critics.
Absolutely.
Just absolutely ripped and slashed our current president. Wow. I've never seen anything quite like it before. Have you heard any NFL coaches take the stand like that? No. And you won't. So that happened. And then our president sort of acted out like an 8-year-old and rescinded his invitation to Steph and company to come to the White House. You don't want to come? You can't come.
Yeah.
You know?
Since I wasn't coming, you're not invited.
You're not invited. Okay? So then I thought, okay, Golden State, you've been called out, and you're going to do what? And after their first preseason game, to a man, the Warriors said after the game, we're good. We're not going to kneel. We're not going to protest. We're good. We're going to stand for the anthem. And I'm thinking, what? So if Kobe were still, let's say, in his final season, would he really kneel? Would he defy the commissioner? Would he go against the flow in the league of
Kobe,
everybody?
yes. Kobe, absolutely.
So? I would hope so.
Kobe Bryant, absolutely.
Whew. Well, that would be something. That would be a bombshell story.
Skip, here's a guy that bucked with his head coach, Phil Jackson. He bucked with Shaq. He had a disagreement or fallout with his parents, and they weren't speaking for an extended period of time. I absolutely believe Kobe Bryant at 39 would have taken a knee. Here's the reason why I don't have a problem with basketball players, because Adam Silver has encouraged his players to be more socially and be active in their communities.
And by the way, he has far more cachet with his players than the NFL commissioner, because they know it's been a real 50-50 give and take relationship.
Right. And ever since he's come on board, the players said, look, Donald Sterling got to go. And he says, okay, owners.
Gotcha. That was his first big act as commissioner.
Once he did that, all the players were on board with Adam Silver. They're like, we need, this is first of all, they say, coming from the All-Star game, we're playing too close to the All-Star game. Okay, guys, I'll give you an extra couple of days off. Adam, we're playing too many of these back-to-back. Okay, we'll start the season earlier. We'll spread out some of these. You won't play as many back-to-back. So he has the players' blessings.
Yep.
But the thing that I like about the basketball players, and the reason why I don't have a problem with it, Skip, because LeBron James will put his money, is putting his money where his mouth is. A lot of these guys says, okay, this is a problem. And instead of saying, okay, we know what's going on, we know why the guys are kneeling. So I'm just going to go in my communities and I'm going to help. And I'm going to try and educate people, as many people as I can. I'm going to give money to causes that I deem that's most appropriate, that's going to help the cause that I most stand for. So I don't have a problem with that, Skip. The protest was initially meant to get attention and to agitate enough people that's in position of authority to change the law and change the policies in which police officers interact with people in the black community or minorities in their said communities. That's what the protest was about. Equality and all these other things, we put that in there. But it started because Colin Kaepernick saw too many blacks, minorities, people of color being brutalized, and the officers were being held unaccountable for their actions. So I would not have I don't have a problem with the basketball players not standing. I wouldn't have a problem if the football players stop standing. As long as they're going to go out in the community and they're going to keep leading their voices, I'm all good.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I wasn't sure where you were on that at this point, this stage of the protest. So just to reiterate for folks who have lost touch with what the NBA has done, the Miami Heat, you were still obviously in Miami, they wore their hoodies in the picture post Trayvon Martin.
Correct.
And it was impressive. And then also, at least as impressive was LeBron, Dwayne, Melo, CP3 on the ESPY telecast, standing strong together and making comments after the tragedies we saw, the backlash tragedies in Dallas, Baton Rouge, and then Orlando. And it worked. Now, I've just been a little surprised that they, so to speak, fell in line with Commissioner Adam Silver, because they are so much more socially conscious to me than NFL players. In more, they're bolder, they're more fearless in their.
It's a player star-driven league.
It is.
So they have more cachet. I mean, LeBron. I mean, you take the top 15 basketball players, and they say, you know what? We're not going to do this. What you going to do?
The contracts are guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
There you go.
Cut me if you want to, but you're going to give me 150.
So I try to read into this, and I need your help on this, because I think, okay, so what's an NBA star thinking right now? Well, number one, he could be thinking, I got to protect my brand. I've got lots of endorsements, and I just saw what happened to some of these NFL players.
Right.
Colin Kaepernick risked his job, and he lost his job. That could be operating to a certain extent. It also could be that NBA players are enlightened enough, they're broad thinking enough that they sat back and watched what happened. Colin Kaepernick did what he did, and it worked.
Yes.
It had dramatic national impact. It created, if nothing else, awareness. It got everybody's attention. And maybe the NBA players are saying, okay, that worked, but if you just keep on keeping on, it gets diluted. It starts, the message gets watered down and gets a little foggy, like what?
We're united against President Trump, or we united against what he said, and now we're talking about this and that. And the main issue gets lost. And maybe the direction of the whole protest gets lost. And so maybe the NBA players are saying, next, like, let's move on to the next thing. We did as much as we could do that way. Right.
Let's go this way. And to your point, giving to causes and all that. So it's somewhere in between protecting brands and just saying, okay, but this is not for us. The NFL did that. We need to think of going different directions.
I believe if the NFL players had guaranteed contracts like MLB and the NBA, there's no question in my mind you'd see more guys kneel. But because the contracts aren't guaranteed. Now, Cam lost the sponsorship. Cam's probably making $18, $19 million a year.
Yeah.
I mean, Russ just got a guaranteed 205 on top of the 28 that he's going to make.
Right.
James Harden, you see these guys getting 150, 200 million. That's a whole different ball game, Skip. I can lose $2 million as long as I know I got 200 million coming in. So what you going to do?
But also the NBA players have a lot more liberty because of the temperature that Adam Silver has set to speak out that NFL players do not have because they don't have the backing.
Right.
So I would understand why they would, I don't want to call it a compromise, but why they would agree to all stand, because whether they kneel or not, they still have the ability to immediately go and talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. I mean, some of the coaches do. And remember, the NBA has seen this before with Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf.
Right.
So it's not the first time that
Denver
this has happened.
When that happened, and he caught a lot of flack. He caught a lot of flack over that. Skip, and I believe that when we look back in it, say 30, 40 years from now, we'll look back on Colin Kaepernick. We'll look back on a guy like a LeBron James, and they will be thought of like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like a Bill Russell, like a Colin Kaepernick could really be thought of like a Muhammad Ali. See, we can't look at these historical figures in today's perspective because 40 years ago, they weren't looked at like that. It was time. Only 30, 40 years from now when we look back and we're like, man, that was really bold. That was brave.
Well, I think LeBron already has that.
Oh, yeah. But
seriously, he has spoken out in so many ways that Michael Jordan dared not.
So it would be interesting to see if Kobe would do that, and what the reaction from the league would be. Is it a must-win for the Seahawks against the Rams on Sunday? We'll discuss.